GitHub Copilot's $10 plan can burn through a single agentic session, costing $30 to $40, while OpenCode's $10 plan gives you unlimited sessions flat. That gap hits hard if you're running agents all day. Both tools cost $10 a month right now, so I compared GitHub Copilot versus OpenCode across 5 tests to see where the money actually goes. The pricing story is only part of it, and the deployment test at the end could flip your whole decision depending on how you actually work. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. Every number in this video traces back to official pricing pages, vendor docs, or community-reported benchmarks where official figures fall short. If you're running agentic coding sessions daily, picking the wrong $10 plan could cost you real money fast. Test 1. Cost. The number that made me stop is this. Copilot Pro is $10 a month, but that $10 buys you exactly $10 in AI credits, and one agentic session can eat $30 to $40 of those credits, community reported. So you're potentially blowing 3 or 4 months of your plan budget on a single afternoon of agent work. What surprised me when I dug into this is that OpenCode's $10 Go plan is just flat, unlimited agentic sessions within request limits. No per token meter running in the background. OpenCode's free tier is BYOK, meaning you only pay your model's API cost directly with zero platform markup. Copilot does have a free tier too, but it caps at 2,000 completions a month, which is not a lot if you're literally hammering it. OpenCode takes cost, and it's not subtle. A flat $10 with unlimited sessions beats a metered $10 that can drain in one afternoon. And I'll be straight with you, I figured this would be a close call since both tools share the same price tag. But the token-based billing on Copilot's side changes the math completely. That puts OpenCode up 1-0 on the scoreboard. Test 2. Coding benchmark performance. The number anchoring this whole test is 56%, which is the share of real-world SWE bench bug tasks GitHub Copilot solves, community reported. SWE bench is actual open source repo bugs, not toy problems, so a tool that can't handle them means you're still doing the hard debugging yourself, and that time adds up fast. I looked everywhere for an OpenCode SWE bench score, and I couldn't find a published figure anywhere. OpenCode shows up in the Artificial Analysis Coding Agent Index, but there's no specific number attached. Copilot's harness also reports 35% token savings across 20+ models, which is a real efficiency claim. And the honest caveat is that Copilot wins on evidence here, not necessarily on proven superiority over OpenCode. GitHub Copilot takes this one because it has data and OpenCode doesn't, and that's the only honest way to call it. The OpenCode community is really active, so I went in thinking I'd find at least something comparable, but I couldn't find a number to put next to Copilot's 56%. Score is now tied 1 each. Test 3. Speed. Copilot reports a 30% developer speedup in case study data, and that sounds great until you realize OpenCode has no comparable benchmark at all. So the question becomes whether a 30% speedup claim from one tool tells you anything useful when the other tool is a completely different interaction model running in your terminal. What I found when I dug into this is that these tools aren't really racing each other. Copilot is autocomplete first with a multi-file edits mode on top, while OpenCode is a terminal agent that reads your codebase, plans, writes, and iterates, which is a different interaction loop entirely. OpenCode's speed also depends a lot on batching and prompt efficiency, and large context windows slow it down noticeably. Comparing these two on speed is kind of like timing a sprinter against a long-distance runner and calling it a race. Copilot's 30% figure comes from a case study, not a head-to-head test, and OpenCode's speed is shaped by your model choice, your prompt, and your context size, so any gap you see here depends almost entirely on your own workflow, not on some fixed property of either tool. Speed is a tie, no winner called. The data just isn't there to compare these two fairly, so we're still at 1 each, 1 tie on the board now. Alright, so we've got context limits and deployment still ahead, and those two tests matter a lot if you're working with large code bases or you want to swap models freely. The context test in particular could change how you think about the cost gap we already found, because a bigger window that burns credits faster might not actually be the advantage it looks like. Test 4. Context and output limits. The number here is 192,000 tokens, which is Copilot's context window, community reported. And it sounds massive until you find out that roughly 40% of it gets reserved for output even when your prompt is tiny. So you're not really working with 192K of usable space, and on a token metered plan, that reserved output capacity is costing you credits whether you use it or not. What surprised me here is how different the approaches are. Copilot gives you a fixed 192K window and reserves about 40% for output, community reported, while OpenCode doesn't have a fixed window at all. It auto-compacts conversation history when you hit the model's limit, which is a pretty smart way to handle it. And for local models with Allama, OpenCode defaults to 4,096 tokens, but you can push it to 32K, community reported. I couldn't find a published output reservation figure for OpenCode. The raw number makes Copilot look way ahead, but take it with a grain of salt because the 40% output reserve shrinks that usable window considerably, and on a token metered plan, every token in that reserved block costs you. OpenCode's auto-compaction approach is smarter for long sessions, even if the ceiling is lower. And which one actually works better for you depends on whether you're doing short-focused tasks or long, multi-step agent runs. Context and output limits is a tie. Both tools have real trade-offs here, and neither one is clearly better for every situation, so we're still at 1 each. 2 ties on the board now. Test 5, Deployment and Modality. OpenCode supports 75 plus LLM providers through models.dev, including local models, and that number matters because if you're locked into one model provider, and that provider raises prices or degrades quality, you're stuck. Copilot ties you to the Microsoft and OpenAI ecosystem, and while that's a deep and well-built ecosystem, it's still one ecosystem. When I looked at surface coverage, Copilot spans 10 plus native surfaces: VS Code, GitHub, Xcode, JetBrains, now Vim, Eclipse, and more, which is genuinely impressive breadth. OpenCode covers terminal, desktop, and IDE extension, plus those 75 plus model providers, and it's fully open source with 160K plus stars and 900 contributors on GitHub, so you can customize it in ways Copilot just doesn't allow. These are really different bets on how you want to work. Deployment and modality is a tie. Copilot wins on native surface count, OpenCode wins on model flexibility and open source customization, and neither one dominates the other, so the final score lands at 1 win each, 3 ties total. GitHub Copilot wins when you live inside the Microsoft ecosystem. It's got a published 56% SWE bench score, a 192K token context window, 35% token savings across 20 plus models in its agentic harness, and native integration across 10 plus surfaces, including VS Code, GitHub, Xcode, and JetBrains. If you want a proven, measured tool that fits into your existing IDE workflow, Copilot is the safer pick. OpenCode wins on cost and freedom. Its $10 Go plan is flat with unlimited agentic sessions, while Copilot's $10 can run out in 1 session, and the $0 BYOK tier means you pay only your model's API costs with no platform markup. It supports 75 plus LLM providers, including local models, and it's fully open source with 160K plus stars, so you can bend it to whatever workflow you need. Okay, so going in, I figured the benchmark performance gap would decide this, but the cost structure is what actually matters most for most developers. One agentic session on Copilot can cost $30 to $40 out of a $10 plan, and that number alone changes the decision. If you live in VS Code or GitHub and want a tool with a published performance track record, go Copilot. If you want flat pricing, model freedom, and open source control, go OpenCode. If you want to see how GitHub Copilot stacks up against Cursor specifically, I've got a full breakdown already up, Cursor versus GitHub Copilot, and it goes deep on the IDE integration side that we only touched on here. That one's worth watching before you commit to either subscription.